I'm 72 years old. And I need to tell you about a night in 1982 when I was sleeping in my car in a Denny's parking lot in Phoenix, Arizona. I was 32 years old at the time. I'd been in sales for 8 years, and I was completely broke. Not just struggling broke. I mean, my car had been repossessed twice. I'd been evicted from my apartment, and I was living out of a 1974 Dodge Dart with a broken air conditioner in the middle of an Arizona summer. Here's the embarrassing part. I thought I was working hard. I mean, I was knocking on doors every day, making calls, showing up, but I wasn't making any money. And that night, sitting in that parking lot at 11 p.m. eating a $2 burger, I had this thought. What if I'm doing everything wrong? You know what's crazy? I was right. I was doing everything wrong. Not because I wasn't trying, but because I had no system, no plan, no real strategy. I was just showing up and hoping things would work out. And here's what I've learned in the 40 years since that night. Success is not about working hard. It's about working smart. It's about having systems. See, most people think success is random. They think some people just have it and others don't. But that's not true. Success is the result of specific, repeatable systems that anyone can learn. And I'm going to share 7 of them with you today. These are the exact systems that took me from that parking lot to building and selling 3 companies, from broke at 32 to retired at 60. And if I can do it, trust me, anyone can. But here's the thing. You have to actually implement these systems, not just hear them, not just nod along and think that's nice. You have to do them. So let me walk you through this step by step. System number 1, the written goal system. The first system that changed everything for me was written goals. Now I know what you're thinking. Goals? Really? That's your big secret? But hear me out. See, I'd heard about goals before that night in the parking lot. I'd read books. I'd been to seminars. But I never actually wrote them down. I had vague ideas in my head. I want to be successful. I want to make more money. I want a better life. But I never got specific. I never wrote it down. And because of that, nothing changed. 3 months after that parking lot night, I met a man named Bill. Bill was one of the top salespeople in our region, and I asked him, kind of desperately, how are you doing so well when I can barely make rent? And he said something that seemed too simple to be true. He said, do you have written goals? I said, well, I know what I want. He said, that's not what I asked. Do you have written goals? I didn't. So he took me to lunch, which was generous because I couldn't even afford my own meal, and he made me write down my goals, right there, at the table. He said, write down exactly what you want, be specific, put numbers on it, put dates on it. So I did. I wrote, I will earn $50,000 in the next 12 months by closing 2 sales per week and improving my closing ratio from 10% to 25%, $50,000. That seemed impossible to me at the time. I was making maybe $12,000 a year. But here's what happened, and I'm not exaggerating. Within 11 months, I earned $52,000. Now, you might think that's just coincidence or motivation, but here's what really happened. When I wrote down that goal, my brain started looking for ways to achieve it. I started asking different questions. How can I close 2 sales per week? What would I need to do differently to improve my closing ratio? And those questions led to actions. Better preparation, more follow-up, studying top performers. The written goal created a target. And once you have a target, your mind finds a way to hit it. Here's the system. Every Sunday night, I sit down with a notebook and I write out my goals for the next 7 days, not just work goals, all goals. Health goals, relationship goals, financial goals, personal development goals. I make them specific, I make them measurable, and I write down the exact actions I'll take to achieve them. Then, every morning I review those goals. And every evening, I check my progress. This system alone, just writing down clear goals and reviewing them daily, has probably been worth millions of dollars to me over the years. But most people won't do it. They'll say, I don't have time, or I know what I want, I don't need to write it down. And that's fine. But I'm telling you, if you don't have written goals, you're just wandering, you're hoping, you're guessing, and hope is not a strategy. System number 2, the daily planning system. The second system is daily planning. Here's what I used to do, and maybe you do this too. I'd wake up in the morning and just start working. I'd respond to whatever came at me, phone calls, emails, urgent requests. And at the end of the day, I'd feel exhausted, but I hadn't actually moved forward on anything important. You know what that is? That's being busy without being productive. And I did that for years until Bill, the same mentor who taught me about written goals, he asked me one day, "Do you plan your day before it starts?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Do you decide what you're going to do tomorrow, the night before?" I didn't. He said, "That's your problem. You're letting the day control you instead of you controlling the day." So he taught me this system. Every evening before I finish work, or if I forget, first thing in the morning, I make a list. A simple list of everything I need to do, then I prioritize it, not just important and not important. I use what Bill called the ABCDE method, A tasks, must do, serious consequences if I don't. B tasks, should do, minor consequences if I don't. C tasks, nice to do, no consequences if I don't. D tasks, delegate to someone else. E tasks, eliminate completely. Then I work through my A tasks first, before I check email, before I take calls, before I do anything else. And here's what changed for me. When I started planning my days like this, I went from feeling overwhelmed and scattered to feeling focused and in control. I started finishing projects. I started following up with clients consistently. I started actually moving forward instead of just treading water. Now, here's the thing most people miss about this system. Planning your day doesn't mean everything goes perfectly. Life still happens. Emergencies come up, things go wrong. But when you have a plan, you can make intentional decisions about what to handle and what to postpone. You're in control. Without a plan, you're just reacting. I remember one week, this was probably 5 years after I started using this system, I had a major client crisis, the kind that could have cost me $200,000 in revenue. Old me would have panicked, would have dropped everything, would have spent the entire week firefighting. But because I had my daily plan, I could see exactly what tasks could wait, what needed to be delegated, and what I absolutely had to handle myself. I solved the crisis. And I still completed my most important tasks for the week. That's the power of having a system. So here's what I recommend. Every evening, spend 10 minutes planning tomorrow. Write down your tasks. Prioritize them using ABCDE. Then in the morning, start with your A tasks. That's it. 10 minutes of planning can save you hours of wasted time. System number 3, the continuous learning system. The third system is continuous learning. And this one took me way too long to figure out. See, when I was in my 20s and early 30s, I thought I knew enough. I'd gone to college, barely graduated, but still, I'd worked for years. I thought experience was all I needed. But here's what I didn't understand. The world keeps moving. Industries change. Technologies evolve. What worked 5 years ago might not work today. And if you're not learning, you're falling behind. I figured this out the hard way. In 1987, I'd finally gotten my act together. I was doing well in sales, making decent money, felt pretty good about myself. Then computers started showing up in offices, and I ignored them. I thought, I don't need that. I do fine with my paper files and my Rolodex. You know what happened? Within 2 years, I was getting outsold by younger salespeople who were using computer databases to track clients, using spreadsheets to analyze their numbers, using email to follow up faster, and I was still fumbling with my paper files. I lost accounts, I lost income, and I had to humble myself and learn. That was painful, but it taught me something crucial. Success requires constant learning, so I built a system for it. Here's what I do, and I've done this for over 30 years now. I read for at least 30 minutes every single morning. Before I do anything else, before I check email, before I plan my day, I read books about business, psychology, sales, leadership, whatever will make me better at what I do. And here's the key. I don't just read for entertainment. I read to learn. I take notes. I highlight. I ask myself, how can I apply this? Then I listen to audiobooks or educational podcasts during my commute, or while I'm exercising. Any dead time becomes learning time. And once a month, I invest in some kind of training, a seminar, an online course, a workshop. Now, you might be thinking, oh, I don't have time for all that. And I get it. I used to think the same thing, but here's what I learned. You don't have time not to learn. See, when you stop learning, you stop growing. And when you stop growing, you start declining. I know men my age, 72 years old, who are still sharp, still relevant, still contributing. You know what they have in common? They never stopped learning. And I know other men my age who are lost. They retired. They stopped learning. And within a few years, they've just faded. That's not going to be me, and it doesn't have to be you. Here's my challenge to you. Read 30 minutes a day, just 30 minutes, one book every 2 weeks. That's 26 books a year. Do you know what reading 26 books a year will do for you? It will put you in the top 1% of your field. Most people don't read a single book after they finish school. So if you commit to this system, continuous learning, you'll have an advantage that most people will never have. System number 4, the relationship system. The fourth system is relationships. And this is where I made some of my biggest mistakes. See, when I was younger, especially when I was struggling, I had this mentality. I'll do it myself. I don't need anyone's help. Pride, stubbornness, fear of rejection, whatever you want to call it, and it cost me years. I remember in 1985, there was a guy in my office named Tom. Tom was incredibly successful. He was making 10 times what I was making. And I knew that if I just asked him for advice, if I took him to lunch and picked his brain, I could learn so much. But I didn't, because I was too proud. I didn't want to admit I was struggling. I didn't want to look weak. So I kept grinding, kept struggling, kept making the same mistakes over and over. Finally, after another terrible month, I swallowed my pride and asked Tom for coffee. You know what he said? He said, "I've been waiting for you to ask. I've been exactly where you are. I would love to help you." One conversation, 1 hour. And he gave me 3 strategies that completely changed my approach to sales. Within 2 months, my income doubled, all because I finally asked for help. That taught me something huge. Success is not a solo sport. You need relationships. You need mentors. You need peers who challenge you. You need people who've been where you want to go. So I built a system for relationships. Here's what I do. First, I identified the 5 most important people in my life, not the people I want to be important, the people who are important. My wife, my business partner, my top clients, my mentor. Then I put them in my calendar. I schedule time with them regularly, not when I have time. I make time. Because here's the thing, relationships don't maintain themselves. If you don't nurture them, they fade. Second, I join groups, masterminds, industry associations, even just informal lunch groups with other business owners. Why? Because you become like the people you spend time with. If you spend time with people who are more successful than you, you'll rise to their level. If you spend time with people who complain and make excuses, you'll become like them too. Third, and this is really important, I give before I ask. When I meet someone I want to build a relationship with, I don't immediately ask for favors. I ask, how can I help you? I make introductions. I share resources. I offer value. And you know what happens? People remember that. And when I need help, they're there. I learned this from Bill, my mentor. When he took me to lunch that first time, he didn't have to do that. He didn't owe me anything, but he helped me anyway. And years later, when he started his own company, I was one of his first clients. I sent him referrals. I helped him grow. That's how relationships work. So here's the system I recommend. Make a list of the 5 most important relationships in your life. Schedule time with each of them at least once a month. Join at least one group where you can meet people who are ahead of you. And every week, do something to help someone else. Make an introduction, share an article, send a thank you note. Relationships are the foundation of success, and they require a system. System number 5, the financial tracking system. The 5th system is financial tracking. And this one was embarrassing for me. Remember when I told you I was living in my car in 1982? You know why I was broke? It wasn't because I wasn't making money. It's because I had no idea where my money was going. I'd make a sale, get a commission check, and just spend it on whatever. Food, gas, a new jacket because I deserved it. I never tracked anything. I never budgeted. I never planned. And at the end of every month, I'd be broke again, confused, wondering where it all went. It took me hitting rock bottom, literally sleeping in a car, to realize I needed a system. So I started tracking every dollar. And I mean every dollar. I bought a little notebook, and every time I spent money, even $2 for coffee, I wrote it down. At the end of the first month, I looked at my spending and I was shocked. I'd spend $180 on eating out, $120 on random purchases I didn't even remember, $90 on late fees and overdraft fees because I wasn't paying attention. That's $390 right there, almost $400 in 1 month. Multiply that by 12 months, that's $4,680 a year, wasted. And I was wondering why I couldn't get ahead. So I created a budget, a real one, with categories, limits, a plan. I decided X amount for rent, X amount for food, X amount for gas, X amount for savings. And here's the key. I paid myself first. Before I paid rent, before I bought food, I put money into savings. Even if it was just $50, I saved it first. Why? Because if you wait until the end of the month to see what's left over, there's never anything left over. But if you save first, you adjust your spending to what remains. Within 6 months of implementing the system, I had $2,000 in savings. For the first time in my adult life, that $2,000 gave me options. It gave me security. It gave me confidence. And over the years, that system has allowed me to build real wealth. Here's what most people don't understand about money. It's not about how much you make. It's about how much you keep. I've known people who make $200,000 a year and they're broke. I've known people who make $50,000 a year and they're millionaires. The difference? One group has a system, the other group doesn't. So here's the system I recommend. Track every dollar you spend for 30 days. Just write it down. You'll be shocked at where your money goes. Then create a budget. Decide in advance where your money will go. Pay yourself first. Automatically transfer money to savings the day you get paid. And review your finances weekly, just 15 minutes. Check your accounts. Make sure you're on track. This system is not sexy. It's not exciting, but it works. And it's the foundation of financial freedom. System number 6, the health system. The 6th system is health, and this is one I wish I'd implemented earlier. See, when I was building my businesses in my 30s and 40s, I was so focused on success that I completely neglected my health. I worked 14-hour days, I ate fast food, I didn't exercise, I barely slept, and I justified it by saying, I'll take care of my health later. Right now, I need to build my business. You know what happened? At 52 years old, I had a heart attack. Moderate, not life-threatening, but scary as hell. I'm in the hospital, hooked up to monitors, and the doctor says, you're lucky, but if you don't change your lifestyle, the next one will kill you. That got my attention. So I built a health system. Here's what I do. Every morning, I exercise for 30 minutes. Minimum, no excuses. Some days it's a walk, some days it's the gym, some days it's just stretching, but I do something. Why every morning? Because if I wait until later, it doesn't happen. There's always an excuse, always something more urgent. But if I do it first thing, it's done, and it sets the tone for the whole day. Second, I plan my meals, just like I plan my work tasks. Every Sunday, I plan my meals for the week. I make a grocery list. I prep what I can in advance. Why? Because when I don't plan, I default to whatever's easy, and what's easy is usually unhealthy. But when I have a plan, I eat well, consistently. Third, I protect my sleep. I'm in bed by 10 p.m. Every night, I sleep 7-8 hours, because here's what I learned. You can't outwork poor sleep. You can't out-strategize exhaustion. Your body needs rest, and if you don't give it rest, it will break down. I know this sounds basic, maybe even boring, but here's the truth. You can build all the wealth in the world. You can achieve all your goals, but if you don't have your health, none of it matters. I've seen men who are incredibly successful, rich, accomplished, die in their 50s and 60s because they neglected their health. That's not success. That's tragedy. So I'm telling you, build a health system now, not later. Exercise daily, eat real food, sleep 7-8 hours. That's it. Simple, yes. Easy, no. But absolutely necessary. System number 7, the gratitude and reflection. System. The 7th and final system is gratitude and reflection. This one might seem soft, maybe even unnecessary compared to the others. But I'm telling you, this system has been just as important as any financial system or business system I've ever used. Here's why. Success without fulfillment is failure. I learned that the hard way. In my 40s, I was making good money. I'd built a successful business. I had the house, the car, the reputation, but I wasn't happy. I was stressed, anxious, always chasing the next goal, never satisfied with what I'd achieved. And one day, my wife said something that stopped me cold. She said, "You're so focused on what you don't have, you can't even see what you do have." She was right. I'd become so goal-obsessed, so driven, that I'd forgotten to appreciate the journey. So I started a daily gratitude practice. Every morning, before I do anything else, I write down 3 things I'm grateful for. Not big things, just things. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful my business is growing. I'm grateful my wife still loves me after all these years. That's it. It takes 2 minutes. But here's what it does. It shifts my focus from scarcity to abundance, from what's missing to what's present. And when you start your day from a place of gratitude, everything changes. You're more patient, more generous, more present. The second part of this system is evening reflection. Every night before bed, I ask myself 3 questions. What went well today? What could I have done better? What's the most important thing I need to do tomorrow? That's it. It helps me learn from the day. It helps me course correct. It helps me improve. Because here's the thing. Most people go through life on autopilot. They don't reflect. They don't learn from their experiences. They just repeat the same patterns over and over. But when you build in reflection time, you grow faster. You make better decisions. You become more intentional. These 2 practices, gratitude and reflection, have made me a better husband, a better father, a better business owner, and honestly, a better person. So here's the system. Every morning, write 3 things you're grateful for. Every evening, reflect on the day using those 3 questions. It's simple, but it's powerful. Closing. The invitation. So those are the 7 systems that changed everything for me. Written goals, daily planning, continuous learning, relationships, financial tracking, health, gratitude and reflection. Nothing magical, nothing complicated, just systems implemented daily for years. And I'm telling you, if you implement even half of these systems, your life will change dramatically. Not overnight, but over time. Because that's how success works. It's not one big moment. It's 1,000 small decisions compounded over years. Look, I know this is the part where I'm supposed to tell you to like and subscribe. And honestly, if this was helpful, I'd appreciate it. But more than that, I want you to actually do something with this. Pick one system, just one, and start implementing it this week. Don't try to do all 7 at once. That's overwhelming. Just pick one. Maybe it's written goals. Maybe it's daily planning. Maybe it's gratitude. Whichever one resonates with you most, start there. Because here's the truth. Knowledge without action is useless. You can watch 1,000 videos, read 100 books, but if you don't actually implement what you learn, nothing changes. So what's it going to be? What's the one system you'll start this week? I'm 72 years old, and I'm still using these systems every single day because they work, and they'll work for you too.